D. Watkins here with Salon TV, and today I'm joined by my great friend, Professor Wendy Osefo. She's a professor at Johns Hopkins University and a Democratic political analyst. And today we're here to break down the big wins for Democrats in the House and Senate. And, well, it wasn't really any big wins in the Senate. And what does Tuesday results mean? Tell us about America's deep divisions and what should we be looking forward to in 2020?
We have to look forward to everything in 2020 because everything is on the line. But even for all of those people who had the wins taken out of their sails, I want us to remember a few things. One, we were able to basically flip 290 state legislators. We flipped 7 governorships. We flipped 3 state Supreme Court seats. And in 3 ruby red states, and this is really important, they expanded Medicaid. Why all of this matters is we had wins, not to mention that we also got to take over the House of Representatives. So Democrats should be energized, but there's still areas that we need to focus on, and that should be our laser focus going into 2020.
Yeah, because there was so much focus on Beto and Gilliam and Stacey Abrams, which is still going on right now.
Right,
you know,
right.
Please stay in the fight.
Yes.
And I think
do not concede.
But I think a lot of people are discouraged, and I don't think the fact that Dems took the House isn't, I don't think it's getting enough play.
It's not getting enough play because I think what the Democratic Party has a tendency to do is to add the notion of celebrity behind each election that they focus on. So we know about, even though we don't live in Florida, we know about Gillum. Even though we don't live in Georgia, we know about Abrams. Even though we don't live in Texas, we know about Beto O'Rourke. But there are other wins besides those.
People riding around New York with Beto.
Exactly. And it's good to energize your base. But what I want us to remember is because of those 3 races, it energized the entire Democratic base. And that's what we're looking to do. But we have to start pulling away. When I say we, Democrats have to start pulling away from this whole notion of celebrities being the focus of an election and realize that people want actual change. They want tangible things that they can say, this is what Democrats are going to do. And
when you focus on that celebrity element and it doesn't really come through, you do nothing but give the celebrity president fuel.
You give him fuel.
Talk about it at his rallies.
You give him fuel to talk about it at his rallies, and then you give them fuel to attack Obama's legacy. Because Obama came out so hard for Abrams, because Obama came out so hard for Gillum, it's now, another loss for Obama. So we cannot have people necessarily in the forefront pushing their celebrityism for candidates. We need to have and educate the people who are actually going to cast the vote. That's what matters.
So Dems took the House. What do you think? What is the first thing they need to do?
They need to legislate. I know that everyone wants them to start impeachment proceedings, but that's what they expect us to do. We have to be strategic. You have to have points on the board going into 2020. You cannot simply say that our big rallying cry, our big platform is the opposition of Donald Trump. Yes, you can resist, you can oppose Donald Trump, but what are you putting forth to help the American people? So they need to have easy wins. They need to look at infrastructure. They need to look at health care. 57% of voters came out of the election booth yesterday saying the #1 issue for me is health care. How great would that be if Democrats carried that on their back and pushed that forward to say, we heard you, and this is what we did for healthcare. So they need to do that, and then in their spare time, impeach the president.
Impeaching the president, that gets all the headlines.
Yeah.
That's what everyone wants to talk about.
But it shouldn't. We should focus on something.
Strategy.
And speaking of strategy, let me talk about this. White women, I am speaking directly to you. 59% of white women voted for Ted Cruz. Let's juxtapose that to 53% of white women who voted for Donald Trump. And 21% of white women voted for Stacey Abrams compared to 22% of white men. So more white men voted for Stacey Abrams than white women. Who is the face of feminism here? If you are not going to be an ally in the struggle, you need to say that, because what you're doing is your vote is lending to white patriarchy. And we need to understand, as black women, we carry this all the time. But if we're going to do this by ourselves, we need to make that very clear that we're doing it by ourselves.
So would it be fair to say that every white woman isn't a feminist? And is voting, supporting for certain people, is it a feminist vote? Is it a feminist stance?
Every white woman is not a feminist. And every white woman doesn't necessarily have to be a feminist because it's your choice. But I find it ironic that when it comes to issues that are something that's carried by white women, you often see black women there standing side by side carrying this with them. But when it comes to someone like the President of the United States who uses language that can be seen as, no, not that can be seen, that is racist, that is misogynist, you do not see that same level of allyship from white women to black women.
What is Ted Cruz saying that is talking them into giving them their support? Like, what is Ted Cruz saying that's getting white women excited? Or what is Donald Trump doing that gets white women excited about going to the polls and supporting him? Are they following their families? Is it their own? Or maybe they're not following their families because more white men voted for Stacey Abrams. But like, what are we missing? Or what is it in their messaging that makes them feel like they should support?
Every day when you walk into work, you walk into your home, or even the election booth, you decide which part of your identity you lead with. For some people, it's their race. For some people, it is their gender. Based on the demographics alone, it is clear that when white women walk into the election booth, they lead with their race. Because if they led with their gender, they would not vote for someone like Donald Trump who says, grab them by the. They would not vote for a man who says you're bleeding out of the you-know-where. They are clearly voting based on their race and not their gender.
But we got to see that, like, the race, the divisiveness and the race-baiting stuff isn't really working.
It's not working.
But why are people still subscribing to it? Because are they trying to hold on to something that they feel like they're missing, or?
You know what? And I will actually add another piece to that comment you just made. I think for Democrats, we need to wake up and realize that after this election, it is clear that people do not care what Donald Trump says. They care about his actions. The hope going into this election was that individuals will say, oh my gosh, I'm offended by Charlottesville. Oh my gosh, I'm offended by, what happened with, neo-Nazis. But they're not. They're looking at his actions. So we cannot have these oh my God moments when Donald Trump does something, because it clearly does not move the needle when it comes to elections.
Yeah, I think we're already at a point now when we expect him to say anything. So one thing that I was inspired by was there were so many young people who I didn't really see talking about the election in 2016, excited about these midterms. They felt like they stayed home and they shouldn't have stayed home because they see the direction our country is headed in. So, they were tweeting, they were Instagramming, they were out in the streets, they were, supporting politicians, wearing T-shirts and out waving campaign signs, and it was a good thing. And then the celebrities who we put, who the Democratic Party put a lot of faith in, didn't really win. So what would you tell them young people who feel let down by the process?
Don't be let down. It's not a destination, it's a journey. We have to undo what was done in 2016 and even years before that. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take organizing. It's going to take educating. It's going to getting people out to the polls. Amendment 4 was passed in Florida, which will give up to 500,000, if not more, 1 million people the ability to vote. And these are individuals who could not vote before. But people are cheering that Amendment 4 happen. But how are you going to energize and galvanize the individuals who can now vote? The same thing with millennials. You cannot be shell-shocked, so to speak, from this election, but you can just be energized. And if I can add this, you and I are old enough to remember the whole Vote or Die campaign with P. Diddy. And I believe at that time, who was running? John Kerry was running. And it was P. Diddy, Vote or Die. He lost. But that did not...
that would be a good ticket, P. Diddy and John Kerry.
You're so funny. But he lost, right? But that did not stop our generation, because we are the same people who, although we voted for Kerry and he lost, we then went ahead and voted for Obama, right? So you cannot say, oh, because it didn't go my way, this midterms, I'm done. No, you keep on going because it's a journey.
So what happened in the Senate?
I don't know, man. I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say that.
I would argue that, win or loss, I think Beto, transformed politics in Texas. Like, I think a lot of progressive people are going to be inspired by his run, and, they're going to start to change the way they try to engage and move forward.
Absolutely. I think Beto is one of those energizing forces. I don't think this is the last of him. I think this is the beginning of him. We're going to see him in future elections. And I do think he energized the base, because even though Beto lost, it was never supposed to be that close. Texas is a ruby red state. He should not have had any chance of winning, so to speak, but he was so close. There were even times when the polls were coming in that he was leading. There's something to be said there. There's an energy that's, that you can touch that's happening, and we need to carry that.
So you're one of the few black people on Fox News that we're always cheering for you because you have to go toe to toe with some of the most, I'm just gonna say, interesting brain dead type of people all of the time. And what I want to say to you, and this is kind of the in preparation for the battles you're about to have, what are you gonna say to the Trump people who come on the show and claim victory?
You can't claim victory because at the end of the day, we flipped the House of Representatives. Before going into this, it was a Republican-held Congress, it was a Republican-held executive, but now we can say the Democrats hold the House of Representatives. And for people who are not energized by that, what that does is it puts a check and balance on the presidency. Before, the president can do whatever he wanted because Republicans held both sides. Now he cannot do that. And we have individuals who are going to go into positions of power who will directly oversee whether or not they request his tax returns, individuals who can, start impeachment proceedings, individuals who are going to oversee the Russian investigation. So no, we did not lose. We flipped places we were not supposed to flip, and we made gains in places we were not supposed to. So this is a great start.
And where should we go for 2020? Like, what's so now? You don't wait to the end of 2019 to start planning. It starts today.
That's right.
What's the next move?
The next move is we need to find a platform that we are running on. What are the Democrats going to deliver to show to the country, this is what we can do for you? Furthermore, who is going to be that voice, that leader who's going to take us over the hill? Third of all, pull away from the celebrities. It has not necessarily garnered us wins. We need a candidate that's going to energize us. These celebrities don't energize us for the long term. They energize us only for that short period. But we need something tangible. And until we get that, we are not going to see gains.
Okay, so throw out some dream tickets. Who do you want to see on that 2020 ticket?
Beto. After yesterday, I wouldn't have said this, but I think Beto. You know what I say? I feel like.
But I need president, and vice president.
Okay, Biden and Harris.
Okay, Biden and Harris.
I know Biden is old, but I think Biden will go blow for blow when it comes to Trump. He'll get in his face. I think Beto and anyone would be great. I think he has a fire. He energizes people. He speaks to the masses. He's really, really good. Those are my top three right now.
Beto and Gilliam?
Beto and Gilliam would be good. But I think that what we have to also understand, because of all the legislators that were flipped, this has been now touted as the year of the woman. 19 women came in. History. The first black woman to represent Massachusetts came in. The first black woman to represent Connecticut came in. The first Somali American came in. The first Muslim American. So many women made history last night that we would do ourselves a disservice if a woman was not on the Democratic ticket. A woman has to be there.
And overall, you're claiming our 2018 midterms as a victory.
It's a victory. It's a victory. But with all victories, you have lessons that you have to learn from, and I hope that the Democratic Party takes that on.
And I hope you guys are listening. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Wendy Osefo.
Thank you. Have a great day.